Well, hi, I'm Dr. Bill Deagle, and I do the NutriMedical Report on the Genesis Network, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday Central Standard Time, right after Alex Jones, and Sunday evening 8 to 10 p.m. on the GCN Network. My two websites are NutriMedical, N-U-T-R-I, just like nutrition, N-U-T-R-I, medical, medical.com, where I include the best of medicine, alternative molecular medicine, and also the inside scoop on what's really going on in advanced anti-aging technologies, bioweapons, and classified research. And my other website is Clay and Iron. It's CLAYANDIRON.com. And that website covers the geopolitical, classified information, which I do release, both American and worldwide, as well as the spiritual issues, above government technologies, and above top secret, as well as other issues which deal with the New World Disorder and their ultimate plans for global eugenics, and many other things that are apropos that kind of connect all the dots so they can see both the micro and the macro.
Well, Dr. Deagle, I find that I live on an entirely different planet than most of the humans around me. When I see things, they appear to me quite different than what the structured, organized political statements usually are. For example, when we went into Baghdad and attacked with the shock and awe campaign, and I had already read the reports that Saddam Hussein was Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated, and it didn't slip my notice that they used the mother of all bombs, or the Moab, to take Nebuchadnezzar out, which this is straight out of the Bible. Does it appear to you that our leaders are using our military to perform some sort of occultic rituals?
Yeah, everything is basically, has several different principles. The first thing is they are, quote, the architects, and they use the architecture of political control over centuries and millennia. They consider themselves the preservers of civilization from the end of one age or cataclysm through to the next age. They're often highly inbred. They are what we call the slave drivers of ancient Sumer and Babylon. And they develop technologies to herd and control, breed, and extinguish the lives, as well as both be the authors of chaos and the order out of chaos. So they're the masters, as they call them, of light and darkness. By the way, we do have an echo still in the studio. If you can,
okay,
if you can get rid of the echo, I can
hear
it there.
That definitely will be confusing.
Yeah, I can hear myself, and that's really confusing.
Yeah, that's.
What we're having basically is they basically paint the battleship pink and put it in the front lawn and put a planter on it so that you won't recognize it. But they have it out in front, and they actually, part of their religion is they have to tell you what they're going to do to you, and enshroud it in symbolism, because it's religious, it's related to sacred architecture, numerology, and other symbols, so that because you don't recognize it, it proves to them that they're really the superior class by using these sacred symbols, and therefore they deserve to be the predator class that predate on us, which they consider the goyim, or the sheeple, that they can consume, use, utilize, and destroy at will.
Now, this concept of magic, I'm not sure what you feel about this. Now, 33rd degree Freemason Manly P. Hall, he was stating that ceremonial magic was the state of religion, that this is the true nature of religion, and that it was these ancient sorcerers of Atlantis, or the black magicians of Atlantis, that brought about perversions of these ancient mystery schools. Do you believe in a black and white magic? Do you believe there is a...
No, there's actually only two perspectives in the universe. The first perspective, I come from the perspective of being what I call a cosmic messianic Christian, which is a believer that our God is a God not only of our world, and that he came in the flesh as Yeshua HaMashiach, but also he's the God of a billion worlds, in a billion galaxies, in a billion universes, etc., etc., and that, in fact, our God is God, and that there's either the perspective of being plugged in, just like, plugged in spiritually to understand the will and the intent of the Most High, and to perform it, which is a Hebrew word called Shema, or to do what is our will, which is basically Luciferianism. So there's really only two perspectives in the universe. You either do the will of the creator of the universe, so you're co-creating, or you're a destroyer, and you're disconnected from the creator, therefore you're destroying yourself and everything around you.
They seem to be doing that. Maybe we could get a little bit into that type of politics, because honestly, I can't met out what their ultimate agenda is. Now, I'm looking in, and I believe you yourself have been inside of deep underground military bases. Is this correct?
Yeah, I've been into the at Falcon, Colorado, at the Schriever Air Force Base, which is an underground facility, and I also have very excellent repeated information from high-quality sources, from secondhand information on a number of other facilities under the United States and around the world. There's over 4,000 facilities. Some of them are fairly small. Some of them are quite big, like the facility between Conifer and the I-70 area, which can house 16,800 people. The facility under DIA is a massive facility that covers 100 square miles, 10 by 10. Wow. The facilities in the Ural Mountains built by the Russians can carry 250,000 people each, with factories, hospitals, etc. And even the Koreans and the North Koreans and Chinese have facilities that can carry millions. So what they basically discovered back in the 50s with satellite radar was that the Earth was pockmarked. When they looked down at it, and they said, this doesn't make sense. There's not a pockmark there. And what they were looking at was radars looking into the Earth many kilometers, and they discovered that there were dormant volcanic domes that were present. And these were anywhere from, say, 2 to 3 up to 20 or more cubic miles in size, and simply had to be tunneled into, and you could create vast underground cities in these huge dormant volcanic domes. So that's what they've done. Plus, they've also used nuclear explosions to actually create artificial dome-like structures underground. And depending on the kind of material, it was whether it was amenable to a proper formation of a kind of a hardened kind of magma-type shield, so you could create a dome-like structure with controlled demolition explosives like the U.S. Army Corps Engineers have developed. So the tunneling technology is well patented. The RAND Corporation, of course, has published information on this in the mid-1970s. But they've had tunneling technology they've been developing since the 1930s, and the technology that they display at the Channel and other facilities like the Big Dig in Boston are actually generations behind the kind of technology that they have that has minimal debris and can tunnel through rock at miles per day.
Now, people like Phil Schneider, who claimed to have been working on a base near Dulce, New Mexico, mentions that he had broken into what seemed to be an alien hive or a gray hive. And there's also lots of talk about this co-interaction with the military and extraterrestrials. What do you think about all that?
Before I get into that, if you can turn down the speaker in the studio so I can hear myself talking again.
Is it still echoing?
Yeah, I'm still hearing a bit of an echo, yeah.
You guys on that?
Okay. I know personally Phil Schneider's colleague that actually worked with him. They had teams of 2, and he actually worked in the subterranean that were tunneling between the various facilities back in the 70s, 80s, and up to the early 90s. His name was John Fiala, and these gentlemen all developed exposure to small nanoparticles and microparticles that cause lung disease, restrictive lung disease, because they smash the rock with these impact lasers, and they blow the debris on the sidewalls to form an obsidian-like core with minimal debris. And then they put an inner core and then put fiber optic cables, vacuum out the tunnels after they put the inner core that snap together to form unidirectional magnetic levitation train tunnels that are tunneled to the rock. And their average depth of the cities is 1.5 miles to 4 miles down. These are literally transcontinental, transoceanic, and around the world. The machines that they had by the mid-90s could tunnel at an average of 7 miles per day at cutting through a rock surface at 80 foot across. The ones after that were capable of cutting through 120 to 140 foot at 12 to 14 miles per day. So the Earth is literally honeycombed with these types of facilities, and they have been feverishly building underground cities and facilities at an enormous pace at the cost of trillions of dollars.
Can I ask you real quick why? Do you have any idea why they're all going underground?
Yeah. How many red pills do you want to take tonight?
Oh, bring it on, Dr. Deagle. Bring it on. Let's let the
first
world
off,
have
you got to look back into our ancient history. If you look at the nature of the universe is a cataclysmic thing. Just like there's seasons, there's also ages. And those ages, like the ages of the Luciferian civilization of the Mayans, they knew about the long count. Yeah. The long count was related to the ages that they considered cyclical. Those cyclical ages are related to a number of events. If you look at our solar system and our galaxy, we live in a plasma universe. Plasma meaning charged particles. So the center of the galaxy has a black hole. It has what's called plasma jet that literally spews matter that forms stars, and that star matter is ejected out at past the speed of light along these plasma streams. And the stars themselves are actually formed by these plasma jets that form the galactic arms. And the arms, as the galaxy spins, because of this centripetal force of the galaxy and the interaction between the plasma and the spinning of the galaxy, as well as the gravitational waves, creates the positions of the stars and actually plugs them in just like lights on a string of Christmas lights.
Interesting.
Okay, so all the stars, in fact, are actually driven as nuclear reactors by the plasma energy of the galaxy. And all Tesla did basically was set up a harmonic oscillator that picked up the frequency of that oscillation across the galactic arms. And he got this information from his father, who was a monk who had access to the Vatican Library that went back to the ancient libraries of Ashurbanipal, Alexandria, and Nineveh. So these libraries go way, way back, long before Sumer.
Wow.
That's where he got his access to his information. So it was not invented by Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla had access to information that proceeded from the greatest library on earth, which is the Vatican Library.
I find this very interesting. If I could throw this in real quick, part of my study has led me to these merfolk. You know, the Atlanteans always claiming to be merfolk, and we have mermaids and mermen all around Austin. And it's interesting to me because I was talking with Dr.
Around
Michael.
Austin, you mean people that consider themselves merfolk?
No, statues. I'm referring to statuary that the Illuminati have put up. I've definitely tracked them back to the Freemasons who have erected them. We have a large statue of Columbia here at UT campus, and she's being drawn forth on a boat by mermen riding fish horses. And the ancient tales of the Atlanteans often spoke of the merfolk, and I'd certainly remember Patrick Duffy playing the man from Atlantis and being a merman. And
yeah, right. all of those things.
Well, what I found really interesting was, as I was talking with Dr. Michael Sala of Exopolitics, he started databasing what these different extraterrestrial races were up to, and the ones that were amphibian were the Syrians, and they were known to participate in technology exchange programs and promote military cooperation with potential extraterrestrial threats. And now this, to me, seemed like a direct correlation to the Vatican and the Pope and his fish hat.
Well, yeah, what's happening is if you actually look at the group of people in Africa called the Dogon, they look at the Dog Star, which is the star in Sirius, in the belt of Orion.
Yes.
The star is actually referred otherwise by Alpha Draconis. Okay? It's the red star. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What you're referring to basically is, and again, you know, if you take from my perspective so people will not misunderstand this, I understand that there's good and there's evil. Now, if at some point in probably the not-too-distant future, there's going to be a, quote, a contact, okay, that will be much more overt rather than the covert marginalization of the, quote, ET phenomena. ET basically are, if you want to look at the word in the Bible and otherwise, that people refer to that are in other groups called angels, that Muslims or other people might refer to, they're really referring to higher civilizations either from somewhere, somewhen, or another dimension. Our physicists now understand there's not only this universe, there's probably an infinite number of universes, that there's probably at least 100 billion stars in this galaxy alone that could support and probably does support an Earth-like environment that could at one time support life. So if you look at the total number of possible universes, it increases the mathematical probability to certainty that there is life elsewhere. Now, life did not evolve; it was created, but it's created by the Creator through either directly or indirectly through its through the Creator's functionaries. Right?
Yes.
Our civilization is in an infancy stage that's supposed to join the collective of advanced civilizations that understand each other, and it is not bound by, as Ray Kurzweil says, emerging with technology. The advanced civilizations do not have religion; they have spirituality.
Right. You're here.
Okay, and there's a big difference.
Yes.
Spirituality, as Jesus said, is the opposite of religion. Religion is a substitute for it. Spirituality is a direct connection with the Creator, the Most High God. So you know the intention that you should do, and you know what is right. You don't have to have it written like your heart of stone. As He said, "I'll write my commandments upon your heart of flesh." Advanced civilizations that have transcended the nanotechnologies and the vertical singularity have the choice of either fusing with the technology, becoming like the Borg, which is what Kurzweil and his transhumanists want, which is a Luciferian satanic total control cult, or they supersede it because we are actually, the nature of the universe itself is created by the interaction of our spirit consciousness corporately and the energy that creates our known vibrational state we call our universe. And the problem is they misunderstand the nature of what kind of a being we are.
Right.
And they try to pervert that. Advanced civilizations understand that, so they have the intellectual and the spiritual power to understand the nature of what they are and their connectedness. But in converse to that, there are also some societies that are maybe not as advanced, but are definitely advanced, that are Luciferian, serpentine, or reptilian,
right,
that are extremely evil, have had extremely evil intentions to destroy and damage culture, and are in a sense disconnected from the Creator and creation, so they're destroyers. And we are caught literally in the nexus of a star war because we're witnessing with the transition of mankind through this transformation, which is going to occur as our Earth goes through some cataclysm, a birthing process where our civilization will become potentially more advanced. But there is besides the, if you want to call it the midwives ready to make the delivery, there's also an abortionist called the Serpentine Luciferian reptilians and their ilk that have invaded our time, space from somewhere and somewhen, who have intentions with the New World Order to steal, kill, and destroy, as it says in the Bible. So it's both a spiritual attack, it's a technological attack, it's an attack against our genetics and our consciousness and our spirituality, and it's an attack against the very nature of what we are going to become and our understanding of the nature of what we've always been.
Well, let's jump back to the red pill real quick. Now,
we've talked about the underground bases. They're
yes.
building them because they know there's cataclysms coming.
Okay.
And the cataclysms, we've already started entering, according to Russian physicists and people like Larry Joseph and other scientists. The magnetosphere of the Earth is failing. We're moving into a time where it's not just a high solar max 24. The solar minimum, which is right now, is higher than it has been any time since Galileo started timing the solar activity.
Yes.
And we're not having a global warming caused by CO2. It's caused by solar activity.
Exactly.
Because as the Earth is part of an arm of the galaxy, it is being dropped through into what's called a photon belt of the galactic plane.
Okay.
And that photon belt drives the sun to become more nuclear reactive, and as it does, it drives more solar activity, and also the center of the Earth is a nuclear reactor, and it generates increased magma activity, so we have increased geothermal activity inside the Earth itself. So the combination of both causes increased superstorms, increased continental shift, increased earthquakes, and increased chances that the magnetosphere significantly drops of us also being exposed to cosmic rays and other types of galactic X-rays that could be very dangerous.
And yet they're willing to just kick on an ionospheric heater like HAARP. And I certainly remember when the USA Today reported that we used HAARP technologies to cause earthquakes and floods against Milosevic.
Right.
So here they are with these.
USA Today is saying that now, right?
Yeah, that was back in the Gulf War.
Well, I'll tell you how they do it, because I was taught directly by an NSA agent.
All right.
what they do basically, think of the Earth is a series of tuning forks. Each tectonic plate has a specific harmonic frequency. Now, those frequencies are very low. And if you had a device that could create a pulse, a Tesla pulse, and you could get an echo back, you could actually, by echo resounding, you can actually resolve and determine scientifically the harmonic frequency that each tectonic plate or subplate would have. So if you want to release the energy, you'd certainly pump in over a period of days, weeks, or months the right harmonic frequency, and that energy would reach what's called the piezoelectric slip threshold, and the plate would then shift when that reached an accumulative giant wave in the plate tectonics. So they do that. So they can do that from space. They have a mobile platform that they built, and they shipped off. It's usually stationed in Hawaii. They have they have an antenna in Diego Garcia, and they have one in Alaska, and they've also been building antenna in the South Pacific as well. They're able to then punch holes in the ionosphere to steer storms in the jet stream. They can set up tectonic interferometry waves to actually cause a nuclear type explosion of up to 100 megatons over any place, a target on Earth, like the Tunguska explosion, which is like a death ray that Nikola Tesla developed.
Right.
And they can also send specific low-intensity picotesla waves that are harmonic with certain life forms, whether they want to affect a specific life form using certain harmonics, or even the nuclei of the brain to cause certain behavioral patterns, because we know that those certain carrier waves can trigger off anxiety, calm, confusion, whatever they want to set off. So they have both space-based and directed energy scalar electromagnetic weapons that they can do this with that don't require chipping of the population. They can be used for both non-lethal and behavioral control, crowd control purposes. So we're basically being attacked by a bunch of genocidal maniacs who believe that they're the god of this world.
Yes. And then they're on a totally different plane of existence. I mean, their calendar dates to the Anno Lucius calendar. It's the year 6007. They're practicing these high occult rituals right in front of us, sacrificing millions, if not more.
Well, the reason why they sacrifice is for several reasons. The first thing is you have to understand that what they consider themselves, they're humans and we're man. And if you look at, pardon me?
Oh, I was just stunned there for a second. Go on.
They're human and we're man, and there's a difference. A human is, if you look at the Welsh word hue, it means serpent. So if you look through every ancient culture, through every religion, whether it's the shoguns in Japan, if you look at the black dragons in Central Europe, and the Thule Society, if you look at the ancient Druids, if you look at the ancient, it's a Naga in ancient in the Pacific Basin, you'll find all around the world, whether it's Quetzalcoatl or the ancient feathered serpent gods or the other, you'll find the same things everywhere. First off, in every language, if you transliterate the sounds, you'll find every ancient temple had the symbols on it. Semyaze. Have you ever heard of that before?
Oh, yes. Actually,
now, Semyaze means the one who has the name of God, so therefore he can control God, because all the Kabbalism and all of the sorcery is based on numbers, sounds, vibrations, and control. So the idea, if you could create the right frequency, you could raise bricks, you could create your world, you could literally set up a harmonic frequency and create a reality. Okay? Right. So the whole principle was, what they did is they would sacrifice, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice, and sexual sacrifice, so that they would sacrifice to the higher astral serpentine gods, okay? And they would then gain power because they'd split the personality of the individuals that participated in the ceremonies, and they'd seal or curse their future generations. So they would then attach these macrobes, which are astral serpentine entities, which we might call demons. And every culture on Earth has done this to create humans.
Wow.
And if you look at the Magna Carta, which is written in 1215 by King John, and you look at British common law, they considered everybody else a manster or monster, which is man, and they were, quote, humans. So when we talk about human rights, they're really referring to those who have been attached to by macrobes through ritual sacrifice, and they're therefore every university, every legal institution, every medical school, every political organization, and every religion on earth are run by humans.
I'd totally accept that.
Pardon me?
I would totally accept that. I agree with that one.
Right, and
100%.
see, even though there's some people at the lower levels that are, quote, the unaware ones, no matter which organization, there may be some very good people, and whatever church or organization, most of them are completely unaware.
Right.
And even at the university level, most people don't realize that they only achieve about the 4th percent level of access to information because they don't have the intellectual, spiritual power or the character structure that can tolerate the dialectic of understanding the twisted logic of both good and evil.
Well, right here at the UT campus, next to that statue I was talking about of Columbia, they do house the handwritten works of Aleister Crowley.
Well, the UT Texas is one of the centers of research on mind control technology. It's one of the top places in the world.
Really?
And it's also the place, of course, where you have your illustrious professor. I'm trying to think of his name right off the top. That calls for 90% of the population to be reduced. I'm trying to remember his name.
Yeah, I think they're yelling that in the studio over there. I can't hear them. Well, yeah, now this whole thing about calling Pianka?
Pianka, that's it.
All right.
Now, Professor Pianka is not an anomaly. Pianka is actually just being honest, because every biology professor, every psychologist, every statistician, every medical school ultimately talks about eugenics, about genes things. So eugenics became out of favor, so they changed it to genetics. And the Human Genome Project was driven by the drug companies and by the need for a eugenics program to map all the human genome. They have the database of every individual on Earth now. They've been collecting blood from all the Western nations of every person born from cord blood since age 36 is already in the database. They send a tube of blood, and it's in a database in Pine Gap, Australia, at their underground facility. They have built at the Argonne National Laboratories in Chicago, and at the Oak Ridge National Lab, a thing called a DNA biochip that does a DNA endonuclease reaction that can break your DNA up with 100,000 bacterial endonuclease enzymes in a laser microchip, and it costs only 42 cents, and they can tell within 5 minutes exactly who you are from every other individual on the planet, doing an analysis of your DNA with as little as a hundredth of a drop of blood. That was available in 1999. They want a total, if you want to call it, digital database, a little like an arc of every single individual on the planet.
Right.
And they're mapping it out because they want to create, just in the words of Adolf Hitler, the Übermensch, or the Superman.
Right.
And they're in the process of basically convincing their minions, who are idiots, because they think they're going to get life extension and gene enhancement as well as cybernetics,
Yes.
that they're going to be living forever, and in fact they're going to be living a very, very short time indeed.
They have been seeking that fountain of youth forever. That's definitely one thing that's been on their mind.
Well, the problem is that they've been taken in. They're, the first to go are those who know, as they say.
Right. Right. So let's paint a picture of our potential future if these things continue as they are, and then start to think about what we as just mere mortals could possibly do to alter course.
Well, we're not mere mortals. That's the first problem.
Okay.
As I say on my show, if we knew what we were, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Right.
Our physical flesh appears mortal, at least at this stage in our current development. But if you look back at the biblical history, mankind had its life shortened, and we probably lived considerably longer.
Right.
I've had on my show Dr. Jonathan Gray, who's got significant proof that the ancient world probably went through a series of cataclysms, but it was probably covered by a hydrogen bubble, a water shield, and there was waters above and waters below, which is below the crust of the earth, and that there was a hyperbaric chamber with much higher carbon dioxide than now and much higher oxygen. And human beings were probably more like between 18 and 24 feet in height 6,000 years ago and before.
Wow.
Most likely what happened is as the radiation belt, as the soils became depleted, as the oxygen levels dropped and everything, a lot of the creatures, and we had a massive species die off, and that the the statements that were in the flood that were, obviously changed through history, like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the ancient floods of Noah, really did occur.
Right.
But the Earth has gone through multiple cataclysms. As the Earth passes through this galactic belt, it occurs about every 3,666 years,
Okay.
roughly. And what that does is it passes us through a belt where there's a debris belt as well as a photon belt that drives the solar system and the nuclear reactor in the center of the Earth to cause earthquakes, volcanism, and solar activity to cause global warming. And believe it or not, global warming can trigger off ice ages, because an ice age is driven not by global warming so much, but by increased rainfall.
Right.
So you can have droughts in some places, and you have these other things. Now, the Arecibo Observatory in South America is owned by the Vatican, and the globalists are not stupid. They try to recruit the best and brightest. That's why you see, like the Rhodes Scholarship, they might recruit 300 people that have IQs over 180 or 190, that are very driven people that have the right character structure, and then out of that 300, they might select 30 that are psychopathic, brainiac minions that will do just about anything because they have no ethics.
Right.
Most of the other ones are just, intelligent people that are very nerdy, and they would rather just be off in their corner doing their experiments.
Right.
They look for the people that have the talent and the spiritual talent, like Luke Skywalker, and they try to turn them to become a Darth Vader.
Right.
And they're the ones that they put in leverage in corporations like Bill Gates, whose father was one of the senior founders and contributors toward Planned Parenthood and is still on the board of Planned Parenthood, who is looking over the foundation for the Gates Foundation for vaccinations, which of course is tied directly to the World Health Organization and their plan for population reduction and sterilization and the dumbing down of the population, because they don't want us to have IQ extension, life extension technologies. And they certainly can't deal with a population of intelligent people that live 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years with, basically relatively unlimited capacity to learn new things with these new technologies without sacrificing the nature of our own humanity. In other words, repairing illness and eliminating disease and eliminating senescence, but not changing the nature of what we are to turn us into a cyborg or one of a pod. And that's the real issue. We have the government operatives like Ray Kurzweil and many of these transhumanists that are basically a form of Luciferian, who have got the Aleister Crowley view that their will shall be done and that they're the gods of this world.
Right.
That's what's going on.
Now,
and what we can do about it is first become informed that there is a God that created us and created the world, that there are advanced civilizations out there that want to intervene, but the intervention will not occur until we're transformed internally. Just as Jesus said, when I return, you shall be as I am exactly, and even greater things you'll do. And what he's really saying is, yes, I was the Father in the flesh, I was God in the flesh, but you're the children of God. Right. And you need to wake up and take your inheritance, rather than being aborted by a Luciferian agenda of the globalists. But you have to take it with courage, because those who are cowards, there is no place in the future.
Well, it seems that if, as we do seem certainly to have free will in a sense, and that they have to have our agreement, and at this point they're trying to convince us all to agree that we all need to die, is what I see with books like Left Behind and some of the stuff coming from the Club of Rome, is that they're trying to get us to agree with the fact that 90% of the population needs to die off. I hear it out of people's mouths.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. First off, there's no shortage of energy. There's no shortage of food. I have personally on my website, NutriMedical, and on Clay and Iron, we show advanced technology. I'll be getting Dr. Neil Spite on here shortly with the company that he's affiliated with, and he's a medical doctor and environmental doctor. And we have carburetors that can increase 200 or 300% fuel. We've got a gentleman in California with a Tesla patented non-moving parts Tesla engine. We've got technologies right on our site for superfoods that you can grow in your garden with a thing called Living Earth Probiotics. We've got things that right now, if you take them, they will detox you from electromagnetic and heavy metals and extend human lifespan already 20 to 50% today.
I need that.
And the thing is, within 5 to 10 years, at the rate of technology, we're going to be able to literally reverse disease. I have people on my show like Dr. David Steenblock, who wants me to do a little research with him. He's a leading researcher on adult stem cells, and this is not unethical embryonic stem cells. These are from healthy newborn cord blood or from your own bone marrow. And using growth factors, you can regenerate organs, kidneys, eyes, visual, brain tissue that's been damaged in stroke or injuries. And it will not be in a too distant future. We can regrow fingers, kidneys, and not one that you have to transplant that's going to be rejected, but one is identical because it's from your own genes.
Right.
We don't need nanobots like they're talking about, all these other things. We already have nutraceuticals that will kill all known pathogens, including high-path H5N1, which is, by the way, made by these monsters. Same way as the SARS, which is a race-specific bioweapon.
Right.
So there is no excuse whatsoever for us going into a hellish future. It's all based on ignorance that we do not know what we are, number one. Number two, we don't hear the voice of the Most High God and do His will.
Right.
And so if people start, reading their Bible, start praying, and start getting courage, and start living eternity today instead of at the moment of their death,
right,
then they won't be fearful of the serpentine invaders from space or somewhere and somewhen and their minions when there is a first contact, because most people, if they have very weak faith, will lose it when they have this contact, because they'll fall down just like the natives in Middle America, Mesoamerica, that fell down before Quetzalcoatl, the pheasant serpent god, thousands of years ago, and started doing human sacrifice as part of their religious ceremonies.
Yes.
We need to stop worshiping these beings. We need to stop exchanging technology. We need to stop becoming if you want to call it, cattle and cannon fodder for them. And we need to say to them, we're finished.
Yes. Hear to that.
Yeah, and we can do that. We can choose an alternative future. We don't have to choose a future. And even if there is some destruction, it's not the end of the world, because, unfortunately, I don't think that everybody's going to listen.
No.
But I don't take that on myself. I take it, the way you should approach it is you should pray for them. You should also, I feel that we should be going for and trying to get repentance from the most evil of the evil. I want Bill Clinton to turn around. I want George Bush Sr., who's eaten children alive, to turn around. I want pedophiles to turn around. I want Bill Gates, who's setting up vaccine programs, and Mikhail Gorbachev with the Green Cross to turn around and repent.
Yes.
Because these people, if we turn one of these monsters back, we can save 1 billion. But most people, when they look at people like us that do know what's really happening, they think that we're psychotic, or we're very smart, or we're very unusual, or we're not even from this world, when actually they're our brothers and sisters, but they don't want to open their eyes.
Yes. Absolutely. It seems that most people, we take for granted that the government is working for their benefit, and never when something comes from the left field, it's just immediately ignored.
The government is always working for your destruction.
Yeah.
They're always a bureaucracy. They're always trying to see how they can parasitize and consume you. And as America has always risen during a time of crisis, it's always occurred from the belly of the minority, who finally realize that they have nothing left to lose, like Janis Joplin's song, and realize that the future is theirs if they're willing to seize it.
Yes.
And that's where we are right now. And other nations are gutless, by and large, and they won't stand up. But we will.
Yes,
and if we have to use whatever means is necessary, and they're going to be very surprised, because they might think that we're just going to be passive and talk, but the time for talking is going to end real soon. And we will use prayer. We'll use intentions of good. But we're also ready to destroy those that will not try to kill us and our family. We will use unconventional means that they will absolutely be shocked at what will be coming at them. And we also have allies. We have allies not just of this world, but outside, as God said, if I could call on my angels, well, there's civilizations out there ready to intervene. And they do serve the Most High God. And so these ones who invaded our world are not just going to have their way with us and do whatever they continue to do, because we've given the permission. That's why they're getting away with this murder.
Right.
They're getting away with abductions of humans, of experimentation, of transferring advanced technology to maniacs who want to wage nuclear wars and advanced space-based weapon systems. And they're getting this because we've given them permission.
Absolutely. They're very good at convincing us to do so. And I think once, the picture becomes clearer and you start to recognize who these guys are and that they're not at all thinking along the same lines, nor even living in the same year as we are, and using us to build their machines to, for me, I don't think civilization is exactly human. I don't think this is the outcome. Well, maybe with your definition, it is entirely human.
Well,
but
first off, what we are right now, think of us as a larvae who's crawling around on a leaf, munching away, and thinking this is the whole of the universe. And we don't realize that 2 months hence, we will be emerging from a cocoon as a butterfly.
Right.
And that's the way most human beings are. Now, there are several of us, there's 3 classes of people on the earth right now. There's as it says in the Bible, the Bereans, the sons of Issachar, which are one of the 12 tribes that could see and read the signs of the future, or the avatars. Those are the people who have a higher spiritual understanding that our universe is driven not by technology but by spirit. Yes. The universe is created by the interaction between spirit beings or consciousness interacting with energy. The second group are people that have some understanding of that, and they basically prostituted so they can become billionaires, media experts, corporate heads, and Darth Vaders by literally selling out. And the third group are what I call the unconscious ones. They're the 99.99% that have their eyes closed tight and their hands held over their eyes so no one can pry their hands off their eyes or open their eyes up. And their thumbs are deeply embedded into their ear canal so they can't hear anything on a spiritual level because they're too frightened to get out of their little paradigm.
Right.
Well, what's going to happen is they're going to be wrenched out of their paradigm by events in the next few years, and they're going to be forced to face the reality that either they're going to accept a deception, which is a great delusion, which is a doctrine of devils by these invaders, or they're going to have to accept the fact that they were created in the image of the Most High God and they have to grow up or be spiritually and physically aborted, as our world is like if you want to call it a living, if you want to call it incubator for mankind. And right now we are facing both midwives ready to deliver mankind into a new age, or a galactic and cosmic abortionist, Luciferian Satanism and reptilian invaders that are willing to abort the vast majority of mankind from this planet. And that's what's really what we're facing at this moment.
And we're at the moment of paradise or hell, really.
We are basically at that, I call it the nexus. We have people like Ray Kurzweil and all these other transhumanists that think somehow that the great nirvana is to fuse with technology and become one of a pod of cybernetically connected. And I was actually a doctor that took care of the employees working on the Virtual World Project. Jeff Wrench just posted an article up a few days ago, but I knew about this back in the mid-'90s, almost 15 years ago. And actually it's more than that now, it's 17 years ago. And the Virtual World Project basically was where they're building a cybernetic model of everything on Earth down to a tolerance of a quarter of a centimeter. And they're inserting, quote, nodes for each human being and icons for every single article and activity. So they create a cybernetic parallel model of Earth inside this mode. And their idea is eventually to put a cybernetic brain interface chip so that they could actually literally put people, just like the Matrix, into these pods where they would no longer be living in real world but virtual space.
Well, that was announced on the front page of Pravda, even.
Yeah, well, the fact is that they have to come straight. You'll hear, if you listen on my show, I release more classified information about more important topics than any other show on Earth.
I do listen to your show.
Yeah, and I have many contacts, and some of them are still fearful to come forward. Like, for example, I have one technician that's still contacted me last year, and he flies he's one of the senior techs on our Aurora space flight fleets that fly between here and our base on the moon and our mining operations. And they don't want to tell you that they have advanced space-based technologies and zero nuclear reactivity, nuclear fusion tokamak-type reactors. They don't want to tell you that they have all these advanced technologies that will completely wipe out pollution, shortage of food, or any other problem, because they want to create the dialectic of confusion, of shortage, of want, so that they can control the population through this means.
Right. And that is the exact description of the draconian reptiles, according to exopolitics.
That's right.
The Alpha Draconis, as you were mentioning.
Right.
That is the
It's
definition.
very real, and there's direct interaction with the highest levels of the religious hierarchies of the most evil, dark lords of our earth. So the highest level that a human can go, a cute human, is 180th degree within these orders, and the orders all above the 180th degree are non-human.
Wow. So this has been going on. I mean, these races and these beings, they've been around for a long time. This is not something that's just popping out of the blue, right?
No.
No?
No, we're dealing with something that's very ancient, very, very evil, and we're literally on the edge of a Star War. We're dealing with the ultimate culmination of something that's very, very big.
It feels that way. I know
this is not just a little war on Earth or a bunch of well-inbred psychomaniacs that want to get rich. You have to understand that if you even look at the logic of it, it doesn't make sense. If you're just, let's say you're a Dick Cheney and you're, let's say, a sexual predator, or you want to be a trillionaire, or you want to do things, you wouldn't be furiously building underground bases underneath your vice presidential residence and squirreling away all kinds of things, trying to get buy ranches in Paraguay and do all these other things, unless you knew something really awful was coming.
Exactly.
And in fact, there were forces and powers that were far more powerful than you, as evil as you are, that are much more capable of doing even greater evil than you are.
Right.
And that's what's going on, is our New World Order leaders are actually minions of Luciferian reptilian Satanism that is galactic. And it's right out of the Bible. It's right to the letter of the law. It says, "Woe to you, earth and you sea, for the devil and his angels have come down. And great is his wrath, because he knows that destruction is coming near." So there's a destruction, literally annihilation and intervention about to happen. But it's not going to be a rapture. This rapture that they think up, and these, what I call the crazy Christians think that they're going to be somehow pulled out of it because they're so good,
right,
is one of the most disgusting, nauseating things I've ever heard. Because if
you.
God could keep your silly carcass down here to save someone from going to what I call being disconnected from the Creator, for not understanding the nature of what you are, then he will keep you down here, despite he's not a considerer of flesh, as it says in the Bible. So I find it very disturbing to hear the remonstrations of people that say that they're so wonderful, and that Christians from America are so much better than the first century Christians, and they deserve so much better treatment. It's not like the Christians in Darfur that are being killed by the Muslims while there's a Holocaust occurring. No one was intervening there because they're black.
Right.
And this is what's happening in our world, is a form of global eugenics by omission or commission.
Well, we're reaching our last 5 minutes here.
Sure.
Do you have any projections of...
I can tell them the signs to watch for.
Okay.
The first thing is that Hamas and the Mossad were both trained and founded by the Gelenorg, which is the Nazi Gelenorg, okay?
Okay.
And they're tied directly to CIA and MI6. So you have to know that all of the agencies on Earth are controlled by a super agency called the Omega Agency. That's an octopus, ultimately under the control of the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar, and the Vatican. Okay?
All right.
Their plan is to set up a universal temple in the Temple Mount, and they're very close to the peace treaty, which, according to Hamas and the Israelis, will be signed by next year. When they do this, whether it's next year or 2 years, whatever, and they split the city of Jerusalem, and they set up the universal temple, which will be for all faiths, and a universal global religion, which will be literally to bring all of them together, they will start a sacrifice, or allow the Jews to start a sacrifice in the temple. This temple and the sacrifices will occur, and it will be the abomination, right, this temple, that will desolate or remove part of the population from a segment of the land of Israel. So that's why it's called the abomination that will desolate. The reason why it's so important is because these events are signs that are concrete that people can see, so they're not kind of fuzzy. Right. So if they see Israel divided, if they see a universal temple where people can fly there and they can go anywhere, it's actually a universal city, so you don't have to have a passport if you fly into their airport that's going to be near Atzarat, which is right outside Abu Dis, which is near Bethlehem. They're still going to build a universal airport there. If you see them do these things, you can say, oh my God, things are going to get set up. So I expect a series of cataclysms to bring about North American Union in the next few years. I expect that...
These are manufactured cataclysms.
Though. Sure they will be. Like 9/11 was an inside job with thermate and micro nukes in Oklahoma City. I expect that they will, at the very least, cause a preemptive or partial pandemic so they can frighten the population into chipping.
Yes.
I think that we're probably no more than 2 to 3 years away from the signing of the treaty and the starting of the last 7 years of what they call the secular history.
Right.
And this is, and that's why my website's called Clay and Iron, because this is the last secular empire. So that's why you see the eye and the pyramid. It says Novus Order Seclorum, which is Latin meaning toward the new order of the ages. So it's the last secular empire that's going to occur on Earth. And we're literally at the end of this age. This age is about to close.
Yes.
And those who perceive and understand the truth, as it says, many will run to and fro, as it says in the book of Daniel. But those who have understanding will understand and close up and seal the words of this book until the end of the age. Well, I released Clay and Iron back in 1999 when I traveled around to the Prophecy Club, and I'm re-releasing this fall the update on Clay and Iron, and another book called Abortion to Armageddon that deals with all of these technologies and the specific seals so people will understand exactly what to watch for, what technologies are happening, both the spiritual and the technical side of what's happening to our world, and it all fits exactly with what the Bible says. It's like a crystal. It interprets itself so that you don't need to have private interpretation.
Yes.
And what's going to happen basically is that people are going to decide. They're going to decide to either serve the will of the Most High God, or they're going to serve their own will, which is the Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt.
Right.
Which is what we see coming, which is do what thou wilt people like Dick Cheney, like 1974, Henry Kissinger calling for the use of food as population control, for the population control, the Planned Parenthood, and Gates' father, who's now on the board of the Gates Foundation, on the Foundation for Planned Parenthood. All of these things are coming together to a final nexus of will you serve God or will you serve Lucifer and face cutting off from the Creator, which is the only destruction that God can give, is destruction of the spirit by disconnection from the one who made you in the image of the Most High God. And that's coming very quickly in our day.
I see it coming. I have no doubts with you there. I don't know why others don't, and I guess it's that hands in the ears and.
Well, some of them are their comfort zone's going to go. I believe this next year, as we move toward phase 1 of the Mark of the Beast, which is next year. And I'm not saying this because I hear commercials on Genesis and I hear other people say, "Oh no, that's not the Mark of the Beast." I say it's not going to come all in one step.
Right.
It's going to come in phases. Phase 1 of the final mark is a trackable panopticon ID that can be tracked. Okay, that's why they even have a strong bag, which is what I showed on yesterday in my news. They have a bag for your passport, so somebody can't aim a gun at your passport 200 yards away and pick up your ID off your passport.
Right.
So you can have a magnetic protection, so they won't steal your ID. Well, if that ID is tied to a database with your retinal scan, your DNA, and everything, they can empty out your bank accounts. They can make you commit a crime. You could be somewhere you never were physically. You can have somebody, manufacture a modus operandi and put you away in prison or have you executed or whatever.
Right. Well, just like that executive order they just passed, stating that if we come out against the war, they can take all your assets.
Well, what could be more obvious than the fact that they're ready to blow up multiple cities? Well, I was told in the mid-'90s. That's why I'm waiting for my data to come back from an international lab, I won't mention where, which is able to detect down to a single atom. But we know there were 55 times higher background levels of tritium. So we know they use nukes in the World Trade Center as well as Oklahoma City.
Absolutely.
And they use thermate. We know they use other high explosives because it was controlled demolition.
Yes.
But the next step, and I was told this by my friends in Special Op in Delta, is that they planned by mid-'90s, they had 22 U.S. cities all pre-wired with nukes, all the way up from small to large-sized nukes. And their plan was to blow the cores of 3 to 7 cities and kill up to 2 million and create a total state of martial law. Now, you know, I sat down with the director for bioterrorism for the FBI and CDC March 1, 2001 with Dr. Jay Reddington from the University of Colorado Infectious Disease, and I was told by the FBI director there would be a Pearl Harbor event. That's the actual words. He repeated it 3 times. They would create martial law and the chipping of the population within 24 months. And after a series of plausibly deniable questions, he told me specifically that we're going to be up to 17 different war game simulations, including jet aircraft going into skyscrapers in lower Manhattan, including the explosion of micronukes, including bioweapons release, including things like anthrax. And believe me, all of these things are coming to pass as we speak. And I'm out there saying this so that hopefully it will delay the destruction of cities like Chicago, because we know that Silverstein owns the Sears Tower, and just like the picture that was posted up on Jeff Rentz from D's Illustrations, I wouldn't live within 65 miles of a blast radius of anything that Mr. Silverstein owns.
Yeah. Well, any last words? We've got like 1 minute.
The last words is God is not nervous and he's on the throne, and if you pray, he's going to have his people walk through walls of fire, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego thrown into the fiery furnace that burns bricks 7 times hotter, just as Moses walked through the people through walls of water. But we have to put our faith in God. We have to do the right things to get our food and our water, and to avoid vaccines, and to take care of ourselves and not to trust, quote, government or the officials. We have to start more arming our friends and our neighbors and not being worried about being ridiculed.
Right.
We have to realize that if we aren't brave, there is no place in the future for those who are cowards.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Deagle. It was a fantastic show. I hope that it sinks in. People, be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid.
Absolutely. God bless, and take care, everyone. Check it out and listen to the NutriMedical Report Monday to Friday, right after Alex on 2 to 4. And to get your local stations to pick up the show if you can. That'll be a great help. We're also on satellite K-band radio, and you can listen free on my websites, NutriMedical.com and ClayandIron.com, and you're going to hear things that are going to change your world.
You want to listen to this show, folks.
Yep.
Well,
take care, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Deagle. You have a great night.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. What a show. I hope some of that sank in. Hopefully it's not too out there, because this is it, folks. Paradise or hell. You make the choice, and that's where we're at. And it's just a matter of internal choice and not a matter of having some government official pass a proper legislation to save your ass. So until next time, have a good night, and thank you for joining the Freeman Perspective.